best companies was Towson Mining, a company I started following quite recently. I'm here with Ralph Shearing, the CEO, to talk about Towson, which is actually a producer, but to my mind, it's mainly a turnaround story, and they're in the middle of a couple transactions right now that are really going to change the finances of the company and the outlook quite a bit. And they've already actually engineered a very good turnaround so far at their currently producing property, Campo Morado. It's not really out there in the market yet, mainly because they just haven't hit the reporting date for the financing, because most of the real improvements happened in the last 3 or 4 months. But I'm thinking year-end financials and Q1 financials, when they come over the next couple of months, I think people will be surprised at how much the situation has actually improved. What do you think your plans would be, sort of in a big picture level, to try to grow and extend these resources?
Well, it's just a function of starting drills up. I mean, as soon as we are healthy enough and we have enough money to direct at exploration, then on both projects, we just start to drill. And there's no question in my mind that we'll immediately start bringing in new resources and reserves. We already have the targets identified on both projects. Campo Morado, Nearstar had spent a lot of money on exploration on a regional basis outside of their existing mine area. They developed at least 15 targets, and some of them coincident for geophysics, electromagnetics, gravity, and geochemistry. And some of these are coincident. These are targets that just are sitting there waiting to be drilled. All we need to do is relocate them and start putting holes into them. And any one of those could bring up new massive sulfide bodies to come into the mine plan. Then if you go right within the underground workings and the existing ore bodies, we have a number of borehole geophysical targets, electromagnetic geophysical targets that have been identified, and they're ready to drill. And in fact, Nearstar drilled a couple of underground holes into those and hit good massive sulfide intersections. So those need to be drilled out, and the other ones they haven't drilled need to be tested. And I don't think there's any question that we will come up with new resources and bring those into reserves and future mine feed. If we get ourselves healthy enough and can really start drilling, and we bring up enough reserves that can justify expansions, we could see this mine moving up to 5,000 tons a day. Now, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. It would take 3, 4, 5 years or more to get there, but it has the potential to do it. Huge exploration potential at Tahuehueto, and without any question, I'm confident to say that we can expand the current resources and reserves really quickly just by connecting up the dots of areas where we haven't drilled along the one structure and add immediate resources reserves to the mine plan. Right now, we have about a 10-year mine life with our reserves. We have additional 9 or 10-year mine life with the measured and indicated resources, which just require a little bit of drilling to bring them up into reserve. And then I think there's double, triple that just along these major structures that we're working on, and with future exploration, we'll bring it in. And that could all justify bringing Tahuehueto up from 1,000 tons per day to 2,000 or to 3,000 tons per day over the next 2 to 5 years as well. So very large expansion possibilities on both projects.
I think all of you watching this, if you like these kind of stocks, you definitely want to be able to take a hard look and a hard think on this. The symbols are in the upper left side of the screen there. TSN on the venture, SOHFF, OTC in the US, and TSGN on
Frankfurt.
That's on Frankfurt, yeah, on Frankfurt. And just it's definitely worth your time to go through the deck. Think about the improvements that Ralph and I talked about earlier in this interview in terms of added throughput, definitely the potential improvements of both base metal and precious metal, particularly recoveries at Campo Morado. Really, if you sit down and walk through those on the back of an envelope, I think you'll be surprised how big the numbers are. They're pretty big. And then on top of that, there's essentially a gold mine, their second mine going into production towards the end of the year. Gold projects tend to get bigger multiples. You just take all of those things combined. I think there's room here for a really, really impressive turnaround. And then as Ralph just told you, and there's a few slides on this in the corporate deck too, there's tons and tons of room to make both of these things bigger resources. I think it's a great story, and the key to making money on turnaround stories is timing. And I think the timing is basically right now. They just announced this finance package. Now is the time you really want to be looking hard at this. Now's the time you want to get on it. I took a chunk in the placement for that reason. I came into it as a skeptic because I won't lie to you, the current balance sheet looks pretty ugly. The first time I looked at it, it was just like, oh man. But once you walk through it and realize what they can do to restructure and what they can do to improve cash flows in the bottom line, it's a really great turnaround story. You've done a great job here, Ralph. I know this one's been your baby for a long time, and things were pretty ugly there for 3 or 4 years, but it looks like you have pulled the proverbial rabbit out of the hat. Okay, I think that's it for today, folks. Talson Mining Corporation, TSN on the venture. Great story. Take a hard look at it. See you all later.
Thanks, Eric. Bye-bye.
Yeah.